Another day, another Chris Sutton cry session. Welcome back to Fog Football. The other day said Celtic's squad ain't good enough, and now he's saying they're weaker. It's basically just him mincing the same words, but he's applying a lot of pressure to the Celtic board to finally go and spend some money. And this is what he had to say ahead of Celtic's opener against St Mirren on Sunday. And I quote, "If you look at the squad going into the season, it's still a little bit light. Brendan Rodgers, everything I've seen him hint and say, he feels the same. The fact that Brendan talked about ambition, he's always quite calculated in what he says and the words that he uses. I think that's a little warning shot across the bows to say we need to bring players in. It's fair to say the squad aren't as strong right now as they were at the end of last season, and that's not ideal, but there's still plenty of time left in the transfer window. If you look back at the last 16, Celtic won the league in the first half of the campaign. They won 16 of the first 18 games, set off like a house on fire, and there was some real momentum going into the season from pre-season. It doesn't quite feel like that at the moment, and they didn't have the burden of the Champions League qualifiers last season, and we know how enormous they are for the club." End of quote. Celtic's start last season, the first half, you can't complain with that. 16 games, 1 out of 18. Trying to recall the game against Aberdeen, they dropped points in, and did they draw against Dundee United or something? I can't actually recall. Either way, picking up an insane amount of points there at the first half of the season essentially. And if you look at when 2025 begun, Celtic's form wasn't that good. There was a lot of drop points. I mean, obviously lost a lot of points to Rangers from January to the end of the season. Got beat against Hibs. Other results in the league as well, losing like 1-0 to St Johnstone, which just seems unthinkable. A draw against Dundee United. I think that actually did that come at the end of December? It might have, but a lot more drop points in the second half. But that's normal because they didn't need to keep the relentless form up because Rangers were miles behind. And I think especially ever since that Bayern Munich game, Celtic kind of just took things easy once they went out at the Allianz Arena. But in terms of the burden of the Champions League, he's right, they didn't have that last year. There was no qualifiers to negotiate. But I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse here. How many times have we discussed this Champions League qualifiers? The reality is, I've seen on Twitter today, somebody actually said this, that they think the Celtic board is manufacturing a title fight to keep the league interesting. It's not that, right? It's just a simple case of they don't want to spend money because they're not guaranteed Champions League football, and that's where all the money comes from. Because there's no guarantee of Champions League football, folks, for a number of years now. So say Celtic spend what they've spent in the last couple of windows, last couple of summers, for like the next couple of summers. See this war chest? It's going to be eliminated. So you need to think smart. Now obviously, they've sold Kuhn, and other player sales have brought their... I think they've received about 18 million, I've seen someone say, but they've only spent like 3 million this summer. I expect them a lot. I expect a lot more signings from a Celtic perspective. But here, the good thing is, for everyone else in the league, it has been a bad window. I don't care if you're Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts, right? You'll be looking at that Celtic window thinking that'll make the home games against them a bit easier, going to Celtic Park a bit easier. Obviously, title fight for those three teams is not really going to happen. But here, a lot of people speaking about it. Hearts fans especially, man. See, in the paper yesterday, Hearts fans said Celtic aren't signing anybody and Rangers are signing League 2 players, so we'll win the league. Nae bother for the Jam Tarts. So, be interested to see if that Tony Bloom investment can do something. As for Rangers, honestly, from a transfer window perspective, couldn't really have asked Celtic to do much more. And I say much more because of the lack of signings, man. And that's not me, getting overconfident, because I've still to do my league predictions, folks. And obviously with the weekend fast approaching, they're going to need to get done rather quick. But what I expected this summer was Celtic to at least match the 49ers and cover them off. But I thought Celtic were going to spend money without getting rid of players. Even if they kept Kuhn, I thought they were going to still spend a lot of money, but they haven't. Still haven't replaced Kyogo. They're severely lacking in the wide areas. There does feel to be like a lack of depth at centre back as well. They've brought Tierney in, but as everyone keeps banging on about, that was made official in February. Same with Lyle Cameron. These pre-contract agreements, that's last season's business, in my opinion. But as for the Champions League qualifiers, this is what Sutton had to say. Celtic have been in this position before when they're signing players. When the Champions League qualifiers have already begun, you don't want them learning on the job when the Champions League has started and then missing out. We know how massive those games are. If you're slightly off it, then you can get beat. We will find out at the end of next month whether Celtic have done enough. It's okay for pundits to say the board need to do more, but at the end of next month, if Celtic bring a few other players of quality in, which is going to uplift the squad, all well and good. If not, then clearly people are going to ask questions about why they are weaker now than were at the end of last season. But as he points out, the first leg's the 19th to the 20th of August, so that puts the second leg at the 26th to the 27th of August. That gives you a couple of days, man, to bring in signings by that stage of the game. But yeah, hopefully all the teams can deliver in the Coefficient Cup. But I'll be honest, folks, I don't want Celtic getting into the Champions League. I think it's about time Celtic were playing in the Thursday night competition. And besides, loads of coefficient points on offer in the Thursday night plate, or whatever people want to call it. Wee bit of banter. Anyway, that's where we'll leave it. But like I did say a month ago, I predicted that every single team is going to end up in a competition lower than what they started. Will that come true? Well, as of right now, Tuesday, 29th of July. Obviously only one leg's down from the second round, but Hibs look in a good position. Dundee United look in a good position. So do Rangers, so we'll have to wait and see. But there's two more teams that come in, and I'm looking forward to see what Aberdeen can do as well in that playoff. A lot of playoffs guaranteed, man. Big games, a lot of money on the line. We'll be there to cover it on Fog Football. Till next time. Peace.